Hello, my loves. Welcome to this very special mid-year event, the Soul Evolution, as we take you from desire to manifestation. I am so excited and a little nervous and a little overwhelmed, just a little bit, about bringing all of this information forward. I have my entire team with me. Yay, thank you, Corey. Hi, Anne. Hi, Angela. I have my entire team with me. I'm really trying to I'm like sitting on my shaman stone just to kind of anchor the energy a little bit so we don't have any tech issues. But if there is any, please know that this is actually being broadcast from a third-party service, so that I hope you have registered to get the replay in the event that something goes wrong. Hi, Natasha. So yes, today we're going to be talking about the soul evolution, taking you from desire to manifestation. And we're going to be talking about the micro, the many, many, many different levels of the microcosm that we see this in ourselves, in the world. And then we're going to be talking about the macro. But before we dive into all of that, I'm going to begin with a personal story of how this even came about, because for those who have been with me for a while, or even who just started following me last year, you guys know that last Lionsgate, which we are 2 days away from, I brought you guys the I Am Awake hashtag as part of the Soul Evolution movement. This is when this really began. This is when the downloads began last year. I would say about March of last year is when I started hearing the call that I was meant to step into my purpose, my mission fully, and really get things going. And I started receiving pieces of what I'm going to share with you, and I started really diving into it. And it's about when I shifted personally from being a spiritual teacher to walking away from the New Age community, walking away from the love and light community, walking away from the spiritual community. So what I'm going to say today, I'm going to be calling myself out. And I want to say that I hope you see the reflection. I hope each and every one of you can see the reflection of what I'm going to be speaking about in yourselves today, because this is what it's about. I am not here to serve myself, and I'm not here just to serve you. What I'm going to be talking about is about the whole. It is about how we are meant to evolve into. And in that, I hope that you're able to see what's happening in the world today and what's happening in your own personal reality in this reflection. And this is not a personal attack on any other spiritual teachers or healers. This is not an attack on anybody personally. This is not a judgment. This is not a shame. This is not a guilt. This is me doing my due diligence to bring forth information that I do not personally see being shared in the world today. And I say that with a grain of salt because I don't really read other teachers' books. I don't follow Joe Dispenza. I don't read, I don't even know. I don't read Teal Swan books. I don't read Matt Kahn's books. I don't follow other teachers and healers. I just have never been that person. I'll see their posts and such, but I have learned what I have learned through my own trial and error, through my own downloads and using them and applying them in my own life. This is coming from the depths of my well. And while it may be very similar to what others are saying, and there may be other teachers out there saying it, it's not something that I am predominantly seeing. And because I'm not seeing it, and what I am seeing is reflecting back that this information is not being shared. There's a lot of fear being shared. There's a lot of blame being shared. And I want to try to bring everything into balance for you. I want to try to bring you guys into your divine alignment within yourself and show you how we can help bring the world into alignment, into flow. So while this is going to be probably a long event, I will remind you, I have not decided whether or not I'm going to leave this up on Facebook and or YouTube. So if you have not registered for this event, even though it's going on right now in this moment, I asked Corey if you could please, Corey, you guys, is my manager. I'm asking her to post the link to register in the comments. That way you guys will receive within 24 hours the audio downloadable of this, because you're going to want to go back and listen over and over again. What I'm going to be sharing today has the potential to change your life. It has the potential to blow your mind. And so at any point in time, anything that I am saying does not make sense to you, or it's confusing to you, it means you're trying to make logical sense of something that can't be. And I ask you guys all to just take a moment with me and take a deep breath and sink into your heart space. Opening that heart and knowing that what I'm bringing forth is a remembrance. It is a remembrance. This is information that you know, okay? It is inside of you. I'm never going to tell you something that is you don't know. That's why if it resonates with you, it's a frequency match, and it may not resonate with you today. What I say may trigger you today. And if that's the case, I'm going to say you're welcome, because I am planting the seeds for your soul's evolution. So as we get in, I'm going to start with this little passage. Yesterday, for those who follow Gene Keys, yesterday we transited into my North Node, which is the number 7. 7 is a God number. It is a number that is very resonant to me. And we have a little passage that I want to read, and it really sums up a lot of what I'm going to be talking about, and especially with the false light that we're seeing in the world today that's falling, okay? Which means that the gurus and the leaders and the people that we've looked up for so long to are going to begin falling. And I'm not just talking about the Ellens and Oprahs of the world. I'm talking about even the spiritual leaders that you see right now. There's going to be a lot that will be revealed as they fall because they can't sustain anymore, okay? I'm here to share that true leadership just give me a second. Okay. We have a lot of energy in this room. Okay. I am here to share that true leadership is not about forcefully imposing an agenda or interfering in another's lives. It is about lovingly empowering from behind the scenes. Be not driven by fear of oppression or the love of power. And I'm going to read that again. Be not driven by the fear of power, or the fear of oppression or the love of power. Do not be driven by the fear of oppression or the love of power, but by the profound love of service. I am here to provide you with true guidance. I come to recognize the wise, free leader in you and to help you trust in your own direction. I am listening. That is about you being the change. That is about you being a true leader in this world. That is about you not blaming, you not overgiving, you not being selfish, you not doing what you're doing for greed or because you feel guilty or shame and you feel like you need to give, but because what you're doing ignites your soul so much that you would die if you didn't do it. And that's why I'm here. I didn't expect to get emotional, but it's my soul. So I'm going to share a little personal story about me and why this is all happening right now. This is when you need your assistant to hand you a tissue. So in 2018, you guys, most of you know that I really started to come into what I knew I was here to do. And at that time, I had a business partner, the amazing and beautiful Ashley Pfeffer, and we opened up Magical Soul. And the goal was to create this beautiful platform of space where people could come and they could take their soul's journey from the point of awakening to the point of what we would call enlightenment or samadhi, where you come into full acceptance, full love of self. That's what enlightenment is. It is completely and utterly accepting, radically and loving yourself without judgment, the good, the bad, and the funky, okay? And to go out on tour and have these events and do all of these things and really just start going. But what happened was instead is while we began and we started that creation and we were both being of service and we were both doing what we were called to do, I was chasing my higher self. I was chasing my higher self. I was chasing what felt good, what felt aligned. And I was, as true visionaries do, right? You will recognize this in yourself. The visionaries of the world, they are never satisfied. I am never satisfied, you guys, never. Because I can never fully reach and touch that potential that I know is available. And so I spent 2 years, well, a year and a half basically, chasing my higher self, going so fast, running forward as fast as I could go, doing all the things as fast as I could, putting out all the content, being overwhelmed, being exhausted, to the point to where I lost my business partner. We ended our partnership, and I said, I got to go on my own. I got to go as fast as I can. I felt like I couldn't catch up. And as I'm running ahead, right, I kept getting that snap back. 10 steps forward, 2 steps back. I kept getting yanked back time and time and time again. Launches wouldn't work. Things weren't happening like they should. The people weren't showing up. And I started to get really angry. And I wasn't angry necessarily with myself. I was angry with God. I was angry that here I am. And I hope you guys hear yourselves in this. Doing God's work. Being of service. Doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Sharing with people my deep, dark secrets. The huge transformations that I have gone through. From a life of hell. Of learning to survive. And get my basic needs met, to a life of thriving and love and doing what my soul was calling me to do. And it wasn't working. My needs were not being met. And what are those needs? I couldn't have even told you because I wasn't being honest with myself. I wasn't looking at the raw primal needs and truth that is me. That is what I needed. And a lot of spiritual teachers will say, you don't need anybody else. Everything is a reflection of you. And it is. Everything is a reflection of you. But we are not meant to do this alone. We are not meant to be the single mothers, being employed or having a business, taking care of the family, taking care of the husband. You're not meant to be single fathers, raising the family alone, working your ass off. We're not meant to do this alone. We freaking came here for connection. We are the only species that is born unable to care for itself. Doesn't that tell you something? We were never meant to be equal with a man, and a man was never meant to be equal with a woman. And I know that's going to trigger the shit out of some people, and that's okay. Why do you think we have hips as women? Why do you think our legs are stronger? We're able to do more. Why are men's upper bodies stronger? Have you ever looked at that, at the visual aspect? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever really looked at that? How our strengths are so different and our weaknesses are so different. Yet we have that feminine and masculinity in ourselves. So here I was at the second stage of my evolution, the second stage of my awakening, coming into my service. I was doing, for 2 years straight, I did transmission after transmission, energy healing after energy healing. I made almost everything free or barely cost anything. I was giving of myself until I had given so much that my soul was so tired that I was laying on my closet floor going, what's the point? Why do I want to keep going? Why do I want to keep showing up? Why do I want to keep doing this work? And my team came in and they started giving me more and more information about how I could come back into balance. And as many of you know, that is when the quantum accelerated alchemy method was born. And during that process of going through that process for myself a numerous amount of times and then doing beta testing, I put it out in the universe. For the first time ever, I needed a teacher. I needed a coach. I needed someone to be my mirror. I needed somebody to show me what I was unwilling to see in myself. And she showed up. And with her being that mirror for me, I was able to see things in me that I hadn't saw before. Here's the thing. We all have a dark side. Every single person on this planet has had what we would consider dark lives, where you were the pedophile, where you were the blood drinker, where you were the greedy politician, where you were the person that was solely focused on getting your needs met in some way, shape, or form. It could be any of those things. It could be none of those things. But every single person walking this planet that is in existence, and those who came before and those who came after, or who will come after, have all had lives or done things that we would consider in this day and age as dark or evil or bad. They're not. But that's why what we see in the world today triggers the shit out of us. Because it's a part of us that we aren't willing to look at. Because a lot of you who are hearing me right now are in the second phase of your awakening. You are in the service phase, where you give everything of yourself and you give nothing to yourself, or very little. And you wonder why you're broke and sick. Why you have constant headaches, why you have gut issues, why your thyroid's screwed up, why you have adrenal issues, why you're gaining weight, why you're not losing weight, while you're doing all the things that you are feeling guided to do and you're listening to that higher self, and yet you're not making a dime. You're not making enough to sustain the life that you need to live to be of service. And that's where I was. I had to heal my divine masculine. I had to heal my masculine. Forget divine, just I was in a wounded masculine. And so I took a little journey into myself for the first time ever, because to be honest with you, if someone would have said that to me 6 months ago or a year ago, that everybody had dark lives, I would have laughed at you. But as most of you know, I transcend things very, very quickly. And I have no problem with calling myself out on a belief shift. And so I went into a deep state of trance, and I went and I asked to be shown the lives where I was the bad person, where I was evil. I needed to see why all of a sudden, when all of this pandemic and all this stuff started happening, I was starting to see what people call conspiracy. I was starting to see all the evil in the world, because that's not how I operate with my team. I have very clear boundaries about how I want to operate with the divine. And I didn't understand why it was showing up. I didn't understand why I started attracting clients who had secret dark issues or things that they would never admit to anybody else in the world. Why I was starting to attract clients that were in the same exact place I was 6 months ago or a year ago. And so I went in and I saw when I was the person who was trafficking men, women, and children, when I was the person who was doing that so that I could be the ruler of the underworld and have all the money and all the power. I saw when I was the electrocutioner. I saw when I was the vampire. I saw things and got to go into that first person aspect and integrate those parts of me that I never even knew existed. I never knew that that was a thing, because I lived so much in the love and light. I wasn't going to acknowledge my dark side. I wasn't going to acknowledge my deep primal needs that were inside of me. And through this process of looking at and integrating, reconciling the things that I have done in all the lives that I have lived, in 3 days, I lost 9.5 pounds. I fully opened my money line, and I began fully opening my channel. And I have been downloading every day since, every piece of the rest of the soul evolution that I was unwilling to get because I hadn't made the space for it inside of me yet. Because I was in such denial of the fact that I could be anything other than love and light. That I could have played any responsibility in what we're seeing in my own life and in the world today. And if you think you're any different than me, you're not. But it's okay if you're not there yet. You can listen to my story and allow these seeds to be planted. As I started channeling, what I started getting was a very deep understanding of the soul evolution, the evolution of consciousness, in an understanding that made me see what's happening in the world today in a whole entire new light. Because when I got real honest with myself, my primal needs that I need to have met in this life, the first one is deep connection. I think that's for everybody here. We all desire deep connection. That deep, intimate connection of seeing the raw, vulnerable truth of somebody. But in order to do that, we have to see the raw, vulnerable truth of ourselves, right? We have to be willing to open ourselves up to that level. I wanted to be seen. I want to feel significant, because I am significant. I wanted to be the center of attention. These are my raw, primal needs inside of me, my desires. And I want to be wealthy. And it feels really good to say those things, because these are my needs that are inside of me. And when you have a desire, you can't unwant something. You can't undesire something, no matter how much you try. No matter how many healers shame you that you shouldn't be charging for your work, or how many teachers shame you or guilt you for charging your worth, for doing things in the way that feels good to you. And what they showed me was this. They said, Here's your desire, right? So here's your desire. Here's where you are. You are in human form, higher self, right? You have this desire inside of you. When you're raw, when you're honest and you say, this is my desire, and I'm going to do what lights me up. I'm going to do what I know is to be of service to myself and the whole. You actually will come into union with your desire. But first, this is what happens. Here's your desire. Your higher self goes, oh, I'm going to think the thoughts. And I'm going to immediately line up with my desire. So you feel that immediate connection, that immediate inspired action, that immediate download of, yes, this feels so good to me. I know I can have this desire. I know I can be wealthy. I know I can be on stage. I know I can I can write books. I know I can be that actor. I know I can be that singer. I know I can have this dream that's inside of me. This desire, this thing I want, whether it's to buy a vehicle, to buy a book, or to be on stage. Whatever you desire is possible for you. And the minute you would admit to it, right? As soon as you have the thought, the desire, your desires immediately lined up with your higher self. Your higher self immediately goes to that frequency. And now you feel this complete and utter disconnection. You feel this space between you and your higher self, because your higher self is going to begin guiding you towards it. And if you stay in that flow, if you believe with every part of your being, and every time a limit comes up, every time a block comes up, every time a doubt comes up, you face it, you integrate it, you accept it, and you move forward. You don't avoid it or repress it. You will continue towards that desire. And it will happen quite quickly. Because the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, consciousness can only expand when your desire is met. Hear those words. The universe only knows yes. For the universe to expand, for consciousness itself to continue its evolution and expand, you have to get what you want. Your desires must be met. Because the minute that desire is met, you're going to have a new desire, and consciousness is going to expand once again. But here's what happens instead. Especially for the community that I'm speaking to. We have this desire to be famous, to be of service, to write books, to be a teacher, to be a healer, to be a freedom leader, whatever. But we don't believe that will happen. We don't believe we are worthy of it. You don't believe that it could be easy. You have the desire, your higher self aligns with that desire. You get in the raft of the White River and you start going, and it starts to get a little fast and everything starts to go really good. And you're like, shit. As the protector personalities, the fear personalities, the ego pops in, it's like, you can't have that. You hear other leaders in the world, other healers, other teachers shaming, guilting for making money, for charging. You're charging for your work. You're charging how much? And so you hop out of the boat in the middle of a white river that's gushing because you have aligned with that desire and you've turned your faucet all the way on. So it's a moving. And you're bailing because you had a doubt. You're bailing because you heard someone else's judgment or opinion and you let it get to you. You attached to it. You had a negative thought, a negative belief, a negative program show up. People call those echoes. You're like, oh yeah, that's mine. Creates an anchor. You pop out of that boat. Now you start walking upstream in a white river. That's suffering. That's hardcore suffering. And then you wonder why it's so freaking hard. Resistance only happens when you turn your back to God. when you turn your back to source, when you turn your back to desire, and you say, nope, I can't have that. And you start walking in the other direction, creating further disconnection, further separation, further suffering. For some people, it happens so much they get to the point of suicide. I was there. That was me. And then I was given a glimpse and a flash of light that I had a reason to be here. That my mission was significant. That I was here to guide people through the soul's evolution, to lay down the foundation of the new earth, of the new way, of the new dimensional frequencies we are shifting into. And I've been trying to understand it fully ever since. And at this moment in time, I have the best understanding that I've ever had because I made the space inside of me to receive it. But I had to get really honest with what I desired, and I had to stop showing up and saying, I'm going to give you the world for nothing, and then leave disappointed and broken that I couldn't pay my own bills. Yet I was sitting here helping people with massive shifts in their life go from suffering and abuse and poverty to people making six figures or more and thriving and stepping into their calling. And I'm watching these people that have been through private mentorship with me or who have been through my experiences out there succeeding. And here I was feeling like a fraud because I could do it for someone else, but I couldn't do it for myself. Because I was running ahead of myself. I wasn't taking the other aspects of me that I had buried down, sealed with a lid, and said, you don't get to come out. Until there was no other choice but to open that Pandora's box, to open my well and allow everything to rise, for me to come into full acceptance, to come into full union with myself. For me to love and to learn from every mistake I've made, from every thing that I have done in this life and in other lives, and to receive from it, because you can't have today's awareness without yesterday's mistake. It's impossible. It's impossible. Everybody's afraid of failure, and the ultimate failure is death. This is why change equals death. This is why right now the world is grieving, because change is happening at such an alarming rate to people's nervous systems are going off the charts. People are being blown wide open. They are coming into full awakening. And as you guys know, I have done many articles and had many lives and many videos on the 4 stages of awakening. And so as we get into this microcosm, let's talk about it from an awakening standpoint first, which is the first stage of awakening, or the first stage of your soul's evolution, is victim. This is when you're liberated from the third dimension, third dimensional consciousness. It's like somebody turns on the TV for the first time or opens the curtain and you see the world with new eyes and you're like, whoa. Is that really what I used to believe in? Is that really what that stands for? Is that really what that means? Is this really going on in the world? It's where you begin to see the fourth dimension, which is conspiracy, right? Which is a loaded word anyway. Don't get attached to the words. These are linear words that I'm using to help understand from a human perspective, and not trying not to be fully in quantum, fully in esoteric. I want you guys to understand. So in the fourth dimension, it's the reveal. It's the reveal. We see the truth. But what you're looking at is the truth of the world, but you're not looking at the truth of you. It triggers you because you're not looking at the truth of you. Otherwise, it wouldn't bother you what you're seeing in the world. It wouldn't bother you at all. So when you're triggered, that's your opportunity. It was my opportunity. I love getting triggered, by the way. Trigger me all the time. You guys can trigger the hell out of me. I would love it. You know why? Somebody pushed a button and that released some information, some density that my personal consciousness, my body, my energy is ready, that I'm ready to open up my heart and fully embrace whatever's coming up and making space inside of myself for more light to enter. So the first stage of awakening is victim. People are freaking angry. And you're going to see this in the world over the next 5 or 6 months, maybe even a little longer than that. You're going to see anger, rage, war, upheaval, violence. Because when somebody is liberated from the third dimension, they go into that victim state. It's a very important phase. Unfortunately, most people blame the government, our parents. I had a terrible childhood. I have made peace with both of my parents. We blame anybody but ourselves. I'm not talking to everybody. There are plenty of people that take responsibility. But that victim energy, it's funny. It's all about freedom and revolution. But if you're revolting or rebelling for freedom, you're truly not in freedom, because freedom is, I see what you're doing and I understand where you are in your journey. I see what you're doing and I understand where you are in your journey. I'm here and I'm not going to judge either one of you. I'm not going to blame either one of you. I know where I am. I know where you are. I know where you are. That's freedom. But when you're out there marching and screaming from the rooftops what your truth is, trying to push your agenda about whatever's happening in the world that you don't like and don't agree with, that is not freedom. You're very attached. And we all have a place. We all have a spot where we will go through this. It is necessary. So again, it's not about judgment. It's a necessary step in our evolution. This shift from a third dimensional material plane to a fourth dimensional material plane began in the 60s. Burning the bras, women trying to be empowered, liberating themselves. And then we had an even bigger shift in the 80s. And then we had a technology shift in the 90s. And then in 2000, we began preparing. We started seeing mass death, school shootings, 9/11. The purging process began, because for there to be a rebirth, there has to be a death. Some people opted out. This was their exit point. Now, if you lost somebody during those times, I'm sending you love, but I'm really taking this conversation from a very detached place, because I'm teaching right now and I'm trying to show you guys the process from the bigger perspective. And then in 2012, the awakening began. This is when a lot of the star seeds that were brought in the 60s and in the 80s began to wake up, because they were here to usher in the new change, to be the beacons, to be the light, to be that lighthouse guiding when those who are ready would see it. Phase 2 of the awakening, stage 2 of the awakening, is surrender. Do you see that? Victim, surrender. But surrender for so many people has been waving the white flag. It has been feeling that as we dive into the divine feminine, right? So we go from the structure, breaking the structure of the third dimension, into the fourth dimension of surrender, where we feel guilt and shame as we tap into ourselves. We tap into ourselves and our emotions. We go and start doing the shadow work. And we just kind of put our tippy toe into our well, and we feel that guilt and shame. We feel that repression. We feel and we see the things that we did as a parent. We see the things that we've done or have been done to us. We feel that guilt and shame. And because we feel it so deeply, we're like, I just am going to give. I'm going to try to make it right. And this is when the healer awakens. This is when the spiritual teachers awaken and they're like, let me give everything. Give, 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 give. There's nothing wrong with giving, but they're not receiving. Again, went from greed, third dimensional, structuring, hardcore, masculine, liberation, primal, power under. Victim is power under. You feel powerless or you wouldn't be a victim. This is crime. This is criminals. This is all of it. Power under. To power over. I might have that wrong. Yeah, power over's first, power under's second. Sorry. So you go overpowering because you feel powerless. You don't feel power inside of you. So you project, you go overboard and you take other people's power. It's power over. You just go into phase 2, it's powerless or power under. You're like, oh, I'm such a bad person. I know all this knowledge. I have all of these gifts. I can see, I can hear, I'm hearing spirit. I'm doing all of these things, right? Or maybe this is just you trying to right your wrongs. And so you show up and you're doing everything from a place of shame and guilt. You're doing everything from a place of fear. That's not surrender. That's what most of us do. That's what I did. And then we go through the third phase, which is meant for you to come into synergy. This is the balancing of the masculine and feminine. This is you learning to give and to receive. And the fourth stage, really, we focus on the first 3. The fourth stage is when you come into full union, when you step outside of the 5th dimension, when you become the observer of your reality, when you come into full acceptance of yourself, full radical love of yourself at a constant phase. This is not momentarily. This is your new permanent vibration. Most people, I call it walking enlightenment because there are people walking the earth who are at that space. But for most, this is when you come into union. This is when you return to spirit form, where you shed your body. But even that's going to be changing. So let's talk about it from a couple of different perspectives, because I really am being guided to show you the different micros, because there's so many different people who are going to be watching this. And in that, the different ways I'm going to be describing it is going to be the aha moments that happen. So let's think about it from the 7-year cycle process, right? So we have 3 trimesters of a pregnancy. You have 3 7-year cycles that create your incarnation. So the very first, structure you come into is a masculine structure, right? You were birthed from a feminine into a structure. The first 7 years is the structure of who you are. This is why inner child work and doing the work of going into your parts of yourself, going into your fragments and learning yourself, the work that I do is so important, and many other teachers do is so important, because the first 7 years of your life is the structure of who you are that you are most likely unconscious of. Because in those first 7 years, we are literally helpless. We are a victim. We are in that first stage. We have no power. We can't get up and go feed ourselves in an infant at 1 or 2 years old. We can try, but we come into this world in that victim state, stage 1. You've seen how the micros begin. I want you to see how this shows up in so many different levels. And so what do? We act out. We scream at the top of our lungs. We get sick. We have colic. We have issues. Maybe in the 2s and 3s and 4s. We're completely in that rebellion. We're completely throwing. We're completely being a tantrum. We're completely being selfish because we have primal needs in the first 7 years that need to be met. And if they're not being met because they're not the parent's needs, it's not aligning what makes the parent comfortable, then the child is going to act out. It's going to scream. It's going to be angry. It's going to throw a fit. It's going to do those things because it has literally just come from an energy of the universe only knows yes. And it's coming into a world where people tell it no. And tell it when it's hungry, it can't eat. And when it's not tired, it has to sleep. And for some people, including me, its very basic needs aren't met, or it's left alone or abandoned. This is when the core wounds that I've talked about over the years are imprinted, and they're all about separation. This is when our first split in consciousness happens. Core wounds of denial, rejection, separation, abandonment. It's the first time we are separated from ourselves. The minute we are born, we experience that first separation, that first disconnection from self. And over those 7 years, this is when our structure is being built of who we are, of how we get our needs met. But as most of you know, whether you had a great childhood or a bad childhood at some level, how you are and how you behave today is completely indicative of the first 7 years of your life and what you experienced and what you saw, because it isn't about what you hear. It's monkey see, monkey do. It's demonstration. It's what you were shown, how your parents behaved, how your parents responded. So for many people, this is the structuring, right? So this is where a lot of our base programs, our base patterns are stored deep inside of us at a cellular level, including our parents' programs and patterns, because we are divinely connected through all the generations back. It doesn't stop at 7 generations back. We have an infinite connection epigenetically to our ancestors, to me and you, to where we've come from. So you go into the second phase, right? This is the emotional intelligence. This is from 7 to 14. So 1 to 7, and then 7 to 8 to 14 is when children develop their emotional intelligence, or also known as the second stage of awakening as you get older and awaken, right? So this is this is where our astral body comes in and it connects with us. So we have these huge hormonal shifts and these imbalances happening in our body because we literally have another layer of our aura coming in, developing, integrating into our body. This is when children are supposed to learn how to let go, how to process their emotions, how to speak what's going on, how to express what's happening with themselves. But rarely this is what happens. Why? Because in those first 7 years, they were either trained to be enmeshed with their parents of, I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do and be exactly who you want me to be so that I get my needs met, so that I am loved, so that I am seen and heard. Or they're going to go to the opposite and they're going to reject their emotions. They're going to repress their emotions and they're going to say, F you, I can do this on my own. I don't need you. Because were so conditioned and programmed to be what you wanted them to be and do what you wanted them to do when you wanted to do it, that they're going to rebel to find themselves. They're going to try to break free. Again, it doesn't have to be big trauma, you guys. It can be, I'm hungry, Mom, and you say, it's not 5 o'clock yet, you can't eat. And that person in that moment disassociates from their own needs and says, oh, I can't align with my needs right now. I have to listen to my mom. My mom will tell me when I can eat. My mom will tell me when I'm hungry. I want to play right now. I'm feeling like I want to play. Nope, it's not playtime. Oh, got to disassociate from when I can play. I have to disassociate from when I can have a good time. And I have to look at somebody for permission to play, permission to be myself. Do you see how this trauma occurs? Do you see how this disassociate, this fragmentation occurs? And they don't learn to express their emotions, or maybe they're overly expressive of their emotions. And then we come into the third stage of awakening, which is also from the 7-year perspective, is just the third 7-year cycle of incarnation. And by the way, most people walking around today have not fully incarnated. This is why we have so many children walking around in adult bodies. Because they're like, I don't know who I am, and I don't know what I need, and I don't know what I want. So I'm going to run into and bump into every single person who is not what I need and is not what I want, so that I can learn what I do want. Boundaries. Boundaries are not a fence, you guys. They are who you are at a divine level. This is why the beginning of the year, my big event of the first part of the year was, you better know who the hell you are this year. You better get crystal clear about who you are and who you are not, what you desire and what you don't. The third 7-year cycle is 15 to 21. This is the mental awakening, the mental development of a child for full incarnation. This is when we begin to understand, or have, when we understand, we see, this is the gray area. Understanding is the gray area, you guys. It's not black or white. It's not feminine or masculine. It's not dark or light. It's not red pill or blue pill. It's none of those fucking things. Excuse my language. I'm a sailor. Sorry. It is the understanding. It's the observer point of, oh, I get it. I get why that person's doing that. Oh, I get why that person's doing that. Oh, I get why I'm doing this. Do you see how nobody walking around, not nobody, but majority of the people are not fully incarnated yet? Nobody knows who the hell they are. This is why we have awakenings. And these 3 7-year cycles will begin to repeat. So once you hit 21, you're going to repeat the first 7 years again. This is when, right? You go off to college, you get your first job. It's rebuilding your structure. Do you see the process? Structure, flow, understanding. Structure, flow, understanding. This is your soul's evolution that repeats and repeats and repeats. 369, 369. It's the circle. And so you come into you come into 15 to 21, you have minimal understanding of what the hell to do. You've only watched your parents. You only watched what they told you. You're only doing what they told you, or the opposite of, right? Because you're going to be one or the other. You're either going to be enmeshed and codependent, or you're going to be rebellious and rejecting, and, the black sheep of the family. So depending on where you fall in that spectrum, after you hit 21, you're going to be rebuilding a new structure. You're going to be like, it's time to work hard. It's time to get the 9-to-5 job. It's time to go to college. I got to build the life. I got to buy the house. I got to set up the retirement. I got to go get married. I got to have some kids. So you spend your 20s, right? You spend your 20s, really, the first part of your 18, I would say this probably even starts before that now, but 21 to say 27. What are you doing? You're partying. You're getting your needs met. You're back to you and you alone. This is for me. I'm going to get money for me. I'm going to get a car for me. I'm going to go do what I want to do. Everything is about me, 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 setting up my life, my future. And then somewhere in there, you're going to meet someone, and you're going to have a family, and some are going to have some children. Maybe some people have animals instead, right? And then you go into that second phase of give, right? You see, these are the mothers that are like, I was so happy. I had such a life. I was so successful. I had a career, or plans to have a career. I had friends. I did things. I took care of myself. I got my nails done. I got my hair done. I bought nice clothes. I did shit that made me feel good. Then they have kids and they go all the way to the opposite. and they stop taking care of themselves and they start pouring everything they have into their children out of guilt and shame. I know you guys are resonating with this. I was that person too. And you pour everything in there. And then as your kids start to get older and they're not so dependent on you, their children wake them up. Having kids wakes them up. But somewhere in this process, you have an awakening. Before you even come into the fully understanding. Some people don't, and they will come into that midlife crisis, or they will come into that point where they have an affair in their life, or they change careers, or they blow their life up. They never even get to the next third cycle of understanding. They just keep repeating the first two. Power over, power under, power over, power under. They'll get maybe a little bit of freedom, which may be that understanding but they're just going to keep repeating those two cycles. So that's pregnancy, right? The first trimester, that's what's happening, the first development. And the second one, the organs are being developed, right? They're starting to have more context. And the third, we're starting to get the blood flow. We're starting to get all of it. And then the child is born. And we have the first 3 cycles of this, the first 7 years of life, of development. Our first 21 years are development of ourselves, of our chakras, of our aura, of our physical body, of our journey. But let's take it a little bit bigger. Here's the part that may blow your mind. So I'm trying to think of how I want it, because there's so much information that's come through. There's so much information that has come through. I want you to look at it like this before I go into that. When we're in the masculine energy, when you're first having, when I say masculine, I want you to hear the word structure. This is the structure. Okay? Masculine is the structure. So if you look at dimensions in consciousness, the third dimension is a masculine structure. Okay? Masculine, feminine. So the fourth is feminine, the fifth is masculine, the sixth is feminine, the seventh is masculine. So we are in the structure phase. And before we can surrender into the flow, which will take us to the next structure, we have to have a deconstruction. But this happens inside of us too. So if you look about it, when you think about it, again, in your 20s, you're in your masculine energy. You are in the deep sense of self, finding yourself, building your life. When you're in your divine masculine, it means that you have come deeply into knowing of your divinity, of your structure, of your boundaries, of who you are. You cannot flow without a structure. I don't care who you are. You can be the biggest feminine leader out there. You have to have a structure to flow, or you're going to be all over the place. For you to channel, you have to have a structure. For the water to flow in a river, it has to have banks. For you to live in a house and have privacy and enclosure, it has to have walls. There has to be a structure. Your divine masculine is super important, which means you got to look at your wounded masculine. So when you have your divine masculine and when it's in alignment, you're going to have a deep sense of self. You're going to know who you are and who you're not, what you want and what you don't want. When you're in the feminine, you're learning to flow. You've built the structure. Now you can let the inspiration flow. This is why I always tell people, like, set up your day, have a structure to it. Then you can flow. Then you've created that structure to where you can just let go and channel. You can let go and create. You can let go and do whatever. And then when you get to that third stage, right, then Whatever you're doing is not only supporting you, but it's supporting the whole. So in the beginning, you have a desire. And you're like, I got to build the structure for the desire. I got to build the resume. I got to build the house. I got to get the money to get the car. I got to have the structuring. I have a desire. I have a deep need. I need to go get that met. I'm going to create the structure to do so. The flow is the divine feminine. It's the inspiration. It's the spirit. It's the connection between you and all that is your higher self, which we're going to get into in a moment. It's you being of service. It's you saying, this is my deep desire. This is what I want. And this is how I want to do it. This is what lights me up. This is my purpose. This is my mission. This is how I'm meant to be of service. Do you see the difference? And then when you step into stage 3, whatever you're doing is not just to serve you. It's to also serve the whole. And in order for you to be able to not only serve yourself, but the whole, you have to live a very enriched life, my friends. You have to have the time and the space and the money, the currency, however currency is going to look. You got to have that trifecta. Time, energy, money. It's all the same frequency, but we see it so separate, so different. But I'll tell you, I don't want to clean my house. I don't want to paint my house. I don't want to do yard work. You bet your ass I'll pay someone to do that shit. You know why? It ain't worth my time. My time is more valuable. Do you see how we interchange them? So when someone comes to me or I go to someone else, I'm going to respect their time and they're going to put a price on that. Because what they're going to do for me or what I'm going to do for them is going to be of high, high value, especially if they're in alignment with what they're supposed to do. If you ever gone to somebody and you were severely disappointed, one of the possibilities is they're not in alignment. But for whatever reason, you needed to have that experience because you probably aren't in alignment. You only get, universe only knows yes. Whatever you are going to magnetize to. Whatever, it's just the way this works. And by the way, this is going to change too, which is another story. We're going to move out of a law of attraction universe. We're going to move out of a mirrored reality of learning, and we're going to go into another one. But until that happens, this is where we are. So when you come in to understanding what your needs are, the structure, to what you're meant to do here, your mission, and then what your purpose is, why you chose to be here, 2 different things. Purpose and mission, different, but connected. Then you can put them together in the 3rd stage or 3rd phase of evolution. And now you are being significant because what makes people the most significant? When they're doing something that's of high, high value. When they're doing something that is needed in the world. When what they have is significant. Because worth is only determined by the value of what you have to offer. Right? So if you're a rock collector, and right now the world's like, nah, we don't care about rocks. You better go find the rare rock collectors so you can get your needs met. Do you see? Your worth isn't determined by you. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's what the value you've put inside of you. The biggest ROI you will ever get in this world is mastering you. This is why I created the Self-Mastery Academy. You don't need a master's degree anymore from a college. You need a master's degree in who you are. Because where we're going, that's all you're going to need. If you don't know who you are when where we're going, you're going to be one lost soul. And you're going to be in suffering. And maybe that's where you're meant to be for a little while. Maybe that's what's going to make the light come on. So let's take this to an even bigger macro. The story of creation. So source, consciousness itself, big circle, right? God, whatever you want to call it, all that is. It had a thought, and the thought was I. And in that moment, it created a stream right down the center. It had its very first split in consciousness. And it formed that stream. That stream, when it thought the word I, created a subconscious. It created a first ever separation. Now you think about the Bible, right? It says Adam and Eve. It's really actually Adam and Lilith, but that's another story. Do you see the micro of that macro, that split in consciousness? Now we have an Adam and Eve. Now we have a feminine and masculine. Now we have a sperm and an egg. And when it comes together, it creates what? A zygote. It creates another energy of consciousness. And there began the split and the split and the split and the split and the split. You can see this in the circle of life. Because in that moment, consciousness had a desire. And that desire was to understand itself. But the only way to understand yourself or to understand your desire is to be placed the polar opposite side of that desire. So for me, I desired what? Connection, significance, to be seen, to be wealthy. What was I born into? I definitely didn't have connection. I was abandoned. I had parents. I had my dad, my mom, who may watch this, I don't know. She had her own things at that time, and I love her and I have forgiven her, so it's no judgment. This isn't about blaming my parents. But I had that. My needs were not met. My basic needs were not met. I grew up in a poor family. My dad made good money, but we lived very poor. We didn't have the things that I needed. I couldn't have the things that other kids had in school. If I did, I had to go and do it in ways that were shady to get it. Because I had needs that had to be met, and I had parents that could not meet those needs. I was put in the exact opposite family and environment of my desire. And that happened, my friends, on purpose. We talk about you choosing your family, choosing your environment. This is how it's done. You waited for the perfect planetary alignment, the perfect set of epigenetics, and you chose the path of least resistance to come into the polar opposite of your desire as a soul stream. So you come from a stream inside consciousness. This is why people don't like to say this, but you are all gods. I am God. You are God. We have been fractaled. God is not something outside of us, but we can still connect to God as a whole, or to consciousness as a whole. I have never called it God more than I have right now, you guys, on a sidebar, because of healing my masculine energy. I needed to call it God. I needed to feel that masculine structuring where source is more and creation is more feminine. Do you see? So in that stream, if we back it up to the macro, we had in that stream, this is your soul stream. And in that soul stream, 2 months ago, I said our soul tribes were activated. So in that soul stream, there are many, many, many versions of you out there in the world. That soul stream splits and projects into a higher self, right? So many, many higher selves. It's almost like, this is why I need to buy a big whiteboard, you guys, because I need to be able to draw things. So let me see if I can find my whiteboard. If I, let's see, what colors do we want to use? Okay. So let's see where are we gonna do this. So here's source as a whole. Here's the first split. This is the stream of I, the first separation. Okay. So then it's split out a bunch of other times. We already talked about it. This was the initial feminine and masculine split, subconscious, conscious, Adam and Eve, however you want to say it, however you want, whatever microcosm of the macro you want to call it. And we have all these other streams, right? Because that split kept going. And in this stream is you. And in this stream, there's probably, let's say, 10 versions of you, just to pick a number. Okay. And so with that, let me find this will work. So there's that. Once you do that, here's your stream. It begins to split out. So this is your particular soul stream. Okay. I'm sorry, my ring light might be screwing it up. So this is me, right? Maybe this is my friend Tanya, right? Maybe this is my coach Jess. Maybe this is Joe, whatever. Joe, Bill. These are all these people. Okay. So as you're going along, these people are going to start being activated, and you're going to start being called to each other because you're part of the same soul stream, right? So this can be very wide, and it can also be very narrow. So people who are karmic connections, people where you're like, I've known you my whole life. I know I was meant to meet you. I know we've had lives together. I know we are connected. I know this was divinely met. I know this was a karmic connection. You're most likely a part of the same soul stream. And that's when you'll see a lot of teachers that teach the same thing. I have been compared to some very big teachers out there in the world that like I said, I've never watched or listened to or read. But there's a good possibility that if we're teaching similar things, we're a part of the same soul stream. But in that, this is what happens. So here's your stream, right? So this is just you individually. You're going to come into higher self first. So we're going to just say this is higher self. And higher self is going to say, I want to project myself into form. So this is your human self. This is really terrible. I'm not an artist. Don't judge. So this is higher self, and this is human self, right? HS. So this is going to project into form. Higher self says, I want to experience in the tangible. I want to understand, right? Wants to understand. So again, if we go to this time, right? 1260 timing frequency. No coincidence this was created. This is union on the macro level, right? This is us manifesting. This is us getting all of our needs. So the opposite of 12 is going to be 1 in this instance. So we're going to start here at 1. We're going to start at the polar opposite. And we're going to begin the journey of moving through the dimensions, the levels of consciousness. These are also the dimensions of Earth or Gaia. These are also the frequencies within your own aura, your own dimensions in your own auric field. You don't have just 7 chakras, right? You have 12 strands of DNA. You don't have 3. You don't have 7. You actually have 12. And so you start at 1, the complete and utter polar opposite. And we start moving. As you can see, at 12, and if there's 12, we have a long ways to go still, right? So again, here's desire. This is what you desire. Or actually, this is where you start. This is desire over here. This is desire being met. So this is the desire. This is the desire being met. Desire or manifestation. So this is your end game, which most of us are chasing. This is chasing our higher selves. There's a lot of visionaries out there in the world. I have a big ass vision, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I know that somebody will come behind me and start and take off where I've left. That's why I know I'm significant in this life. I know what I'm here to do. So higher self, right? So this is us in human. I'm going to put HU for human. We say this is our desire. This is where we desire to go. Higher self immediately aligns over here. This is the path. This is the path being revealed. This is our soul's evolution. This is our awakening journey. This is our process from birth to death. Many ways of looking at this. So all you have to do is get that need met, but not. This is where we're going to start showing where the world is at right now. Okay. When we first come in, we're in the very beginning. We're at one. We're at primal. So this is what we would consider the evil of the world. People who know they have a desire, they are aware of their desire, they're honest about their desire, and they go and get it met. This is some of the wealthiest people in the world right now. This is some of the biggest leaders in the world right now. This is the deep state. This is the underworld, right? What are they doing? They have a desire and they are getting their desire met in a very selfish way, right? If we're going to use the word selfish, which I already have an issue with that word, but it's neither here nor there. They are only after what they need. Do you see that? It's not meant to be dark or evil. It's not malicious. It is, this is the very fastest way for me to get my need met. But here's the thing. Do you know why they're going to fall? Do you know why things are already falling? While it's that the false light, those people who we've been looking up to, the wealthy people, the leaders of the world, why they're starting to fall? Because they can't sustain that frequency. Because in order for them to get their needs met, they have to take from other people. They have to do it in a way that is not of service to the whole. It's not necessarily what they're doing is wrong or bad. It is a part of our evolution. When you were born, the first 7 years, nobody shamed you for having colic. No one shamed you for crying all night and day. No one shamed you for throwing stuff. Well, maybe they could have, right? And if they did, this is where that stems from, where you're looking at the world going, how you're making your money, how you're being a leader, the things that you are doing are not okay. Because when I was trying to get my needs met in the first 7 years of my life, my needs weren't met. I was abandoned. I was rejected. I was shamed. I was guilted. I was told that that was wrong. When I was little and I was exploring my body, my mom slapped my hand away and said, that's wrong. That's not a real story, but it's an example, right? Don't touch yourself. Don't touch that. Don't read that. Don't look at that. Everything is shame, judge. When the first 7 years we're meant to explore, to build our structure, we're meant to understand yes, no, right, wrong for ourselves. So the reason why you're so freaking triggered by what's happening in the world is because somewhere in your first 7 years, you were told what's right and wrong. You were shamed. You were guilted. You were told that you were wrong, which is what shame is. When someone shames you, they were saying you are wrong, not your action. Guilt says your action is wrong. Shame says you are wrong. You are the bad thing. You are the bad person. And so you look out in the world and you see someone who's getting their primal needs met in a way that is not of service to the whole. And we shame them. We say, you're a bad person. And maybe their actions on a human level are shit. Maybe it's terrible what they're doing. I'm not here to say what they're doing is okay. What I'm showing you is the reason why it's happening. So you can understand that that is where they are on their journey. And sadly, not sadly, I guess it is kind of sad, but it's a part of it. It's a part of the evolution. It has to be. It is that process of moving. Again, with the clock, right? 12 is the manifestation. That is us at spirit level. Us saying, oh, let me understand myself. Boom. 1, let me have a desire. I have these needs that need to be met. So I'm going to meet them. right? And then we wake up one day, 2, shit, I was really selfish of me. I was just trying to meet my own needs. I was just trying to get what I needed. So I'm going to give because I feel guilty. So I'm going to give. 3, new structure. Got to create a new way of doing shit. Then that's got to fall. So you go, they have to start somewhere. So these people that we are judging as bad people for what they're doing out in the world, the politicians, the pedophiles, the rapists, the criminals, are what they doing? Are their actions good? Are they from a heart-centered place? Are they with source? Are they with their creator? Fuck no, they're not. But that's what my team was telling me. You're either aligned with source and you're meeting your desire through not just service of self, but service to the whole, or you are without source, you are without God, and you are serving only yourself. But there is a time in all of our lives where we only served ourselves as well. And it's our avoidance, denial, repression of our primal needs and our service to self that it has us triggered by what we're seeing in the world. This is why I will say, and I will say, and I will say until I cannot say anymore, that the way we change the world is being the change. When you are triggered by what you see on TV, when you are triggered by what the doctor is telling you, when you are triggered by what I am telling you, when you are triggered by someone in the grocery store, someone on the freeway, whatever it is, you stop and you look in the mirror and you say, that is something that I am unwilling to see in myself. That is why I'm so bothered by what I'm seeing. And when you get right with it, when you reconcile it inside of you, what you see will change. I'm not condoning what's happening in the world, but I'm explaining it, that this is a part of the evolution. And why are we seeing so much of it right now? Because we have a shit ton of people in phase 2 of their awakening. They have their light on. But their light isn't on inside of them. Their light is up here, woohoo, looking out at the world. It's like when you clean the floor, right? You clean the counters, clean your floor and kitchen, all of a sudden you put this dimmer switch in. This actually happened to me. We put a dimmer switch in our house. You turn the dimmer switch all the way up, you're like, dang, I didn't see that dust before. I didn't see that dirt before. I missed a spot there, right? So when people are in that second phase of their awakening, when their light's all the way on, when they're like, I'm not going to go sit in my darkness. I'm not going to go to own my own shit. I'm not going to take responsibility. Instead, I'm going to connect outside of me, spiritual bypassing. I'm going to meditate all damn day. I'm going to channel outside of me. I'm going to go into that. I'm going to go all into the light. I'm going to always raise my heart. I'm always going to focus on positive. I'm always going to raise my vibration. Anytime I feel bad, I'm going to jump into meditation. I'm going to go raise my vibration. I'm going to go up, 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 up. My light is so on. And as it's out there, you're like, look, everybody, I'm awake. My light is on. My light is on. All you're like, oh my God, look how dirty this world is. That's what's happening. There's more light turned on right now than there is dark. There are more people being of service than taking to serve themselves. And so you're seeing it. And those people are like, shit, I can't do this anymore. I can't sustain this. People aren't going to continue to allow me to manipulate them, to take from them because I feel powerless, because I haven't done the inner work to sustain my abundance, to sustain my significance. Because true significance has to come from the heart space. What I'm doing right now, you think this is something I wanted to get on and talk about? It scared the shit out of me to talk about it. One, I'm calling myself out, which I don't really have a problem doing. But 2, I'm talking about something that a lot of people are going to have an issue with, because it's going to be everything that they are not for. It's going to be the exact opposite of what's being out there. So when you look at spiritual leaders or YouTube people that are out there, right? That are all out there talking about the deep state, that are all out there talking about red pill versus blue pill, that all out there talking about this shit, you'll see exactly where they are. They're in that fourth dimensional frequency. They're in that stage. Doesn't mean they're not highly connected. It doesn't mean they're not channeling. We're all connected. We all channel, but we channel like a river through a rock bed. Those rocks, that sediment that water flows through, that life force energy flows through, is how muddy or how clean that water will be. So source is streaming pure consciousness in, pure information, but it's got to go through rocks of limiting beliefs, mud of their own bullshit that they won't face, maybe some more rocks of crap that they have learned. So it's got to go through all this. And by the time it gets to their heart place, that water's pretty damn dirty. So while they might be bringing through some truth, what my team always says, there's truth in everything, but not everything is true. It depends on the clarity of the channel. This is why I have an issue when people call themselves a clear channel. Because unless you have fully reached that space outside the fifth dimension, you are not clear. As long as you're in a human body, you are going to have an ego. You are going to have fragmentation. You are going to have protector personalities. You are going to have fear personalities. You are going to have an inner child collective. And so one of the reasons why I created the course Unity, which is what I went through last year for myself about 4 times. I did 2 beta tests before launching it. It's kind of misleading because you're not really coming into union, but you are, because what you're really is happening is you're coming into synergy. You're opening the van doors and you're saying, ego, come on in. Inner child, come on in. You up, inner child collective, got lots of those inner children. Let me pull in that protector personality and that fear personality. And we're all going to get in the van and we're all going to have a good time as we journey. We're all working in synergy. We're all working together. That's where we got to get to, working together. Because think about my coach has a team of probably 30 girls. She's more of a high-level coach. I consider myself an equal to her. We teach very similar things. I had to find somebody who was a badass like me. I had to find somebody who wasn't afraid to call me out. I had to find somebody that was going to show me the parts of myself I wasn't willing to look at. But when I look at the team of people that she has, and all of us that are working with her and all the people moving forward, I look at all of their unique gifts and I say, together, we are fucking powerful. We're not meant to be divided. But the people that are still trying to get their primal needs met, not through service to the whole, only to service to themselves, are desperate. They're like, I can't sustain this unless I can take, unless I can manipulate, unless I can do this. This is the only way I know how to get my needs met. And so they're grasping at the walls. And so shit's gonna get intense. Separation further. Hello, masks. Hello, lockdowns. Hello, schools not coming into full open. Country borders not opening. They are grasping at straws because they need to get their needs met, but it won't last. And the more of you who look in the mirror and face what's triggering you from what you see in the world, whether it means you're triggered because you might not have income and you may not have that false sense of abundance, you might not have a job, and so you're losing that false sense of security. You're living in uncertainty and grief because everything's changing and you're like, I don't know what to do because I have grown up being told what to do. I was handed a structure and told to put my butt in it. I didn't create my structure. Do you see? And those of you who have your light turned all the way up, who are refusing to admit or take responsibility for the dark inside of you, for the actions you have taken, for the lives that you have lived, for the times when you were getting your primal needs, you were trying to get your primal needs met through the path of least resistance, and that happened to be through greed or selfishness, or by taking someone else's power, by shaming someone, guilting someone, even your own children. I can say I have been all of the things that I have talked about today. I am no different than you. The only difference that I can say for myself is I am taking ownership. I am taking responsibility. And I am saying I have been that person who got their needs met through a way that wasn't of service to the whole. I've been that person. I had to get my needs met. So I did any way I knew how. That's how I knew how at that time. But you know what? I learned something from that. And I can look at that and not feel shame or guilt. And I can say I love that part of me, because now I know so much. I've gained so much by going to the bottom of my well and dredging that shit up and saying, come on, baby. I'm going to come to the table. I'm going to pour you a whiskey, and I'm going to honor everything you did in that life, everything you did when you were younger and didn't know any better. I'm going to honor that version of you, because you did exactly what you needed to do. And it is in that acceptance of that part of ourselves that we come into union, that you get into alignment. It is when you look in the mirror and own your shit and decide to rectify it, to reconcile it inside of you, that the world will come into union. It's going to take a lot of us. But you being in that second phase of your awakening, where you're just being of service because you feel guilty, because you're shameful, because you feel like the world needs you to give nothing but love and light, and you're not willing to look at your dark side, this is what you're doing. Instead of going towards source, this is God, if we're going to give it a label, this is the separation of you. Instead of aligning with that frequency and saying, these are the needs that need to be met, how can I do that while being of service to me and the whole? What is something that lights me up that I would do for free, but I'm not going to, because I know I have to support my needs too, so I'm going to charge? What can I do? Where can I work? What can I be to get not only my needs met, but also to serve consciousness itself? This is going towards source. But the minute that you decide that you are nobody special, that you have no significance, that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough, that you don't know enough yet, that you didn't come from a good enough family, that no one will believe you, you are walking away from God. You are flipping God off and saying, yeah, I don't believe that. My desires are full of shit. What I believe, what I see for myself is full of shit. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm going to take what God gave me and I'm going to walk away. You are no better than what you're seeing in the world today. It's just in a different way. When you don't align with your desires, when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't trust in yourself, you are literally going against God and the God inside of you. You can't expand. Consciousness can't expand. We can't expand because you are closing all the doors and windows and hiding in shame and guilt, saying, yeah, I'm no one special. I don't do anything. You don't have to be me. You don't have to be an Oprah of the world. You could just be the best fucking version of you, sitting on your couch, loving your kids and your animals and being in integrity of yourself while being of service to your neighbor at the same time, and do just what you were meant to do. Do you see? I'm not telling you to go and be me. I am telling you to get your needs met, but do it by being of service to yourself and the whole. Because again, if you're just being of service to the whole and not to yourself, you're still not walking towards God. You're still going against that expansion and creation. That's why you feel so disconnected. That's why you feel like the bottom of the well. You feel abandoned by God. You feel abandoned by your clients, by your world, by your employer, by your parents. Because you're playing in the resistance. You got on the boat, and at some point you jumped out and you decided, I'm going to walk upstream in a white river instead of allowing the boat to be your structure and navigating it around. Is why I say we're meant to learn to master ourselves. If you get your desire, I win. If I get my desire, I win. I expand, you expand. If you want to be a millionaire, I want to help you become a millionaire. If you want to be a global leader, I want to help you become a global leader. If you want to write children's books, I want to help you do that. If you want to work in a nursing home and give love to seniors, I want to help you do that. Whatever your desire is, I want to help you get there. Because it serves me too. Me too. You getting what you want serves the whole. So the false light in the world is going to fall. You are going to see the dirty exposed, but I want you to see the person who is a rapist, a pedophile. I want you to see the person who is a criminal, a dirty politician, whatever. I want you to look at them with compassion because you understand now where they are in their evolution. And then you can look at yourself in the mirror and see where you are in your evolution and what you haven't taken in for yourself, what you haven't admitted to yourself. And if you're doing your soul's desire, if you're doing your mission, the work that you were born to do, you know how you'll know? Doing anything else will feel like death. Doing anything else will feel like death. For me not to do this, when I almost quit, I get emotional because it felt like death. But I had to admit that I wasn't here just to do God's work and to not honor myself, to not be of service to myself. It's both. It's not this or that, you guys. It's both. It's this and that. That's the fucking gray area. You can't serve another person without serving yourself first. Because if you only serve yourself, then you're not serving anyone else. And if you're only serving the whole, you're not serving yourself. That is a this or that. Just like when I say we don't die, we just change form. At the same time, we do die. We die every day, 1,000,000 times a day. And this is also why I said that I walked away from the New Age community. I walked away from the spiritual community. I walked away and I said, I thought all this time for the last 5 years that I was awake, for the last 8 years, actually, 2012, the last 8 years that I've been awake, I wasn't awake. I was a fucking sleep. I woke up this year when I moved out of the 4th dimension into the 5th, and then I leaped into the 7th. And that's where I am right now. I'm in that leap from the 5th. You think you're awake, but until you have come to that space of this and that, where your money, where everything is flowing, time, relationships, money, health, all of it, doesn't mean that you won't have obstacles. It doesn't mean you won't have challenges. It doesn't mean you won't have triggers. It doesn't mean that those things won't happen. It's that you will be in such synergy with yourself, such alignment with yourself. you're not going to be in resistance to it anymore. You won't resist the heavy emotions. You won't resist the body pains. You won't resist the triggers. You won't resist being around people that are going to bother the shit out of you. You're not going to resist anymore. You're going to be in full allowance because you're going to know that whatever comes your way, you are capable of handling, that you can trust yourself fully, that you are the freaking captain of your ship. True leadership is not about forcefully imposing an agenda or interfering with others' lives. It's about lovingly empowering from behind the scenes. It's you being the change and demonstrating that, and that's what I am doing today. So, if you have questions, drop them now. I'm going to reference something really fast, and then I'm going to go into your questions because I didn't realize how far into this we've been already. And there's so much more, you guys, that I haven't even shared. I didn't even look at my channel notes. So I will be talking about this in bits and pieces on my YouTube channel over the next however long till I don't have anything else to say. So anybody who knows me knows that's pretty much impossible. I always have something to say. If you're ready to master it yourself, if you're ready to get that master's degree in you, if you're ready to be a new earth leader, if you're ready to be the best version of you, if you're ready to be the best parent, if you're ready to look at all parts of yourself, if you are ready to take full ownership and proudly fly your freak flag and say, this is who I am and I love me. And if you don't like it, that's okay, because we get to be different, but we are still the same. I took all the courses and experiences that I kept over the years, and I put them in a type of chronological order of the stages of evolution, of the stages of awakening, and I put it all together, and it is called the Self-Mastery Academy. This is work I've already done. There is 2 brand new courses and experiences where we're going to be doing the deep parts work, the deep fragmentations of the first 7 years of your fear personalities, your protector personalities, your inner children collective, really kind of taking those pieces of the broken bowl and bringing them back together. We're going to be doing the deep parts work. So I have 2 more experiences over the next 4 months that are included in that have yet to launch. But there's over $10,000 in content in the Self-Mastery Academy. It's all DIY. You just kind of go through it at your pace, and it's at a monthly membership fee. Wanted to make it super affordable, something that felt good to me, but also would help serve the whole at the same time. There is a VIP buy-up option where you can have one 90-minute session with me a month. Anybody who's private mentored with me, you know why you want that, because the people who private mentor with me are the ones that have taken gigantic leaps. And over the next month, we'll be interviewing a few of those people who have really gone really fast because of doing the work. But not everybody's at that space yet, and not everybody's going to be resonant to me, and that's okay. We all have people that we're going to become drawn to. So if you feel called to work with me, the Self-Mastery Academy is a place where you get to have your master's degree in you, where you get to learn who you are and who you are not, how to handle your emotions, how to express your emotions, how to deal with the triggers, how to come into union with yourself, how to take that journey of your divine path to see what your purpose is, what your mission is, what opens your heart, what your superpowers are, how to forgive, how to surrender. The how-tos is in this. So Corey, if you could drop a link to the Self-Mastery Academy. I don't know if I gave it to you, so I may have to pull that up. It's the Self-Mastery landing page. So I'll have to drop that afterwards because I did not prepare her for that. So never mind, Corey. But I will drop a link for that for those who are called, and you can go to johannaburkhardt.com. It is on my digital course page. It is at the very top, and it will tell you all about it. And it will give you the options of just taking that journey at your pace and diving in. This will also include, you guys, which I'm super excited about. So many people have been asking me to do monthly live events again. So those are coming back. So in the Self Mastery Academy, that includes all my content. So you will get every monthly live event, whether you're there or not. You will get every class I teach. You will get every transmission I do. You get all of that. It's going to be awesome. So there's ridiculous amounts of content for you. It is a prerequisite to my teacher training program that's going to be coming out to literally learn every modality that I have. But that's not for now. The Self Mastery Academy is officially open. And to all those that want to have a master's degree in themselves, I invite you to at least look at it, to take a look and see if it's something that calls to you. And if it's not, then there's another teacher out there for you. But let me say this. As someone who's laid on her closet floor crying, asking for help, when the help showed up, I almost turned it away because I allowed somebody to get into my ear. That person is just like you. That person teaches just like you. That person, you'd be, why are you going to waste your money? That person helped me shift into who I am right now. She was the mirror I needed, and her name is Jessica Ahlstrom. And I'm very grateful. So when that happens, when that person shows up in your timeline, when that person shows up and you feel called to work with them, don't turn away, because I did. And she came back for me. And I'm so grateful because I needed that mirror. I needed someone to show me what I was unwilling to see in myself. We all need it. It's why we get twin flames. It's why we attract people who are assholes, why we attract people who are narcissists, why we attract people who do things to us. And you keep saying, why do I keep attracting this? Because you are always going to attract what is deep inside of you that you aren't acknowledging. If you won't look at it, the universe is going to show it to you another way. So when you ask for help and that person shows up, don't step into your lack consciousness. Don't step into your separation. If that person resonates in your heart, figure out a way. And hopefully that person has options that can meet your needs. So I would love for you to join me in the Self Mastery Academy if it calls to you. So let me see what questions we have. I also do have a few private mentorship spaces available, not a lot. And that is the fastest. That is the very biggest path of least resistance is private mentorship. So let me put my glasses on here and take a drink of water while I read comments. And if you guys have questions, now is the time. Corey. She says, I am guilty as a parent with this, and I need to sit with this more. We all are. Nobody is nobody is getting out of that scot-free. Okay. We just have to rectify it within us. We have to forgive ourselves for whatever we did or did not do as a parent, or whatever we're doing or not doing right now as a parent. We have to reconcile that with ourselves, forgive ourselves. Don't go into shame and guilt. Make peace with yourself and change your behavior. We're always doing the best we can with what we got, with where we are. If you have never read Mike Dooley's, excuse me for wiping my snot everywhere, Leveraging the Universe, one of my favorite books ever. We're always doing what we can with what we have, with where we are. Angela says, my mind is blown right now. There is so much to understand at a conscious level. Yeah, this is why I said you're going to want the replay, because like I said, this is such valuable content. I'm not sure I'm going to leave it up. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm going to sit with it. It'll be up for at least a couple of days. But if you want the replay, Corey has dropped the link and you will get it within 24 hours. You will get an audio that you can download and you can come back and you can pause and you can listen and you can take notes. This is my gift to you. When I sat before I actually put the event out there, They said, this is for you to give. This is for you to give. Don't worry about feeling like you're giving so much and not getting anything in return. You are taken care of. They said, this is your turn. You have owned all of your shit. You have stepped into union. Your money line is open. Everything is fine. Give. Open this up. Everybody needs to hear this. And who all is ready to hear this will hear it. It was something that I promised that I would do. So I want to make sure that those who want this have registered. Tara Lynn, oh, she says, I have grown so much just from listening to you. Thank you. That fills my heart so much, that people who just are here to listen and to share this broadcast. Those who come to listen and share, that's me receiving. You sharing this message is me receiving. So if all you can do today is share this message, hit the share button. Share it with someone privately. Share it with someone publicly. Share it wherever. Humming Dragonfly. This is awesome, relevant, valuable, or vulnerable, and powerful, potent. Thank you so much. You are witnessed, loved, and appreciated. Thank you for that. Anne says, this was amazing. Angela says, I don't have any questions currently, but I learned so much in the last 90 minutes. Thank you. You're welcome. Lots of thank yous. Yes, Self-Mastery Academy is open. Vanessa, I'm so grateful for you. Angela, it's hard to find the balance as parents. Yes, because, and I'm glad you said that, because we feel like our job as the mother, and you know, I don't know who I was listening to. I was listening to a podcast or something, and someone said something and it really hit hard. And they said, we were never meant to do all the things. We were never meant to be single. There should be no single mothers on this planet. And in fact, me and my girlfriend were talking like a week ago about when you go through separations and relationships, like there should be like a community the moms or the wives or the husbands go to adjust before they move on to their own life, right? To have that community. There should be single mother communities. There should be communities where one mother is making dinner, and the next week, the next mother's making dinner for the whole community. We were never meant to do this by ourselves. We were never meant to own anything. We weren't meant to own houses, to own property, to own people. We were never meant to own anything. We were meant to share everything. Unity, community. We were meant to work together. So yes, being a parent, especially Angela, a single parent, that's rough. Because not only are you trying to be the best mom you can, you're trying to serve yourself, you're trying to serve your community. Angela has private mentored with me. Angela is someone who is trying to become the next, one of the new earth leaders, to be a guide. And she is well on her way. But you're right. When we're trying to do all the things, we are fractaled out so much. And this is why we need community. This is why we need sisterhood. This is why we need people around us to share in the responsibility. We were never meant to be a mother, a wife, a teacher, a business owner, all of those things all at one time. Some people were here to bring children into the world and have other people raise them, and they're called nannies, and that's okay. That nanny was probably the best thing that your child ever had, because your zone of genius was not parenthood, but you were the vessel in which that child meant to go through. Do you see? We even judge people that have nannies. I know some people that would give their life for their nanny, because that nanny's job was to love that child and nurture that child and guide that child in a way that that parent could not. Yet we judge them. So if your zone of genius is not parenthood, then find somebody that can be that guide for your child. If your zone of genius is just having fun with your child, then make sure that you're the one that has fun with the child, and that the disciplinarian is someone else. And that you know what I mean? We are returning to a community-based environment. So you're damn right. It feels hard right now because you're trying to do things that are going upstream. When it's hard, you're in resistance. Thank you, Jen Deck. Yes, she just shared the Self-Mastery Academy link. I appreciate you, sister. you guys are interested, check that out. Thank you, Angela, for bringing that point up, because you just brought in another piece of wisdom that people needed to hear. Vanessa, I work too, so I had to stop listening in between here. Oh, if you registered, honey, you can go back and listen to the whole thing. And I had the experience of being in a Vision Quest community, and that was what I learned, the shared community. Yes, shared community. You were a nanny for a long. I know a lot of people that were nannies. You know, a lot of the Taurus energy, if you are a Sun Taurus, especially, there's other ones, but I noticed, and I know this because my daughter is one, the Taurus, that very grounded earth energy, they're here to have families. They are here to have nurturing, to give, to have that community. And so they build huge communities around them of support, of people who do things, right? That's why in business, I was drowning, because I'm trying to be all the things for my business. And so I had to find ways to support myself. And I was fighting with it. I'm like, why aren't these people showing up? And then I surrendered. And then my soul tribe started to show up. And Corey Johnson is one of them. She's my manager now. And she's had my back for 2 years, just sharing my words. And that is giving to me. When you share my content, you're giving to me. And you're going to learn, you're going to receive, because I love to give value. It's one of my favorite things to do. So let me just roll back and see if there was any other questions that I missed. I know we had a lot of comments. And thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for being here. I feel like I always comment, but I've seen this in my meditation. A lot of you are going to resonate with this. A lot of you're going to be like, I've seen this. I've been feeling it, but maybe you couldn't articulate it. And that's okay too. That's okay too. So I want to close by just giving a deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to all of you who were here watching me vulnerably cry and just give from my heart space, and letting you guys know that this is my truth. This is the truth that I have been given. And this is me showing the evolution of consciousness from the macro to the many micros, showing you what we're seeing in the world today and how we are a part of that. We have ownership in that. And it is in taking that ownership. It is in us taking that responsibility, and that responsibility being looking in the mirror and saying, how can I be the change? How can I own my stuff? How can I reconcile and rectify within me? That's the only thing you have to do to help this world shift. That's it. And that takes deep courage and bravery and a deep sense of love and commitment to self. But I'll tell you something. This is the best and the biggest return on investment you will ever get, is by diving so deep, headfirst into your well of unknown and uncertainty and shadows and lights, obstacles, limitations. And instead of going away and feeling that tension, feeling that resistance, feeling that stress, turning towards it, saying, this is a part of me and I have to love it. Because if I don't, then I'm separate. That I am saying that parts of me aren't worthy, that parts of me I don't like. You're self-rejecting, you're self-repressing, you're self-denying. And in that, you're creating further separation and disconnection, which then will be shown in the world. So I am not a bottom-down teacher. I am not going to teach love and light. And it's funny because I never really did that with my clients, but I was doing it with myself. I'm not going to tell you to raise your vibration and to only be positive, because here's the thing. If you're using positivity and vibration raising as a way of avoiding what you are feeling, then you are walking away from the God within you. You are walking away from source, and you are creating that line of resistance and tension, and it will snap back. And it will be a tower card moment. It will be the rug being pulled out from underneath you. It will be the thing not working. It will be the bankruptcy, the loss of job, the death in the family, whatever. It will be the tragedy, the accident, the shakeup that you needed to say, hey, you forgot some people. You forgot some parts of yourself. You can't outrun yourself. It will always catch up to you. It's a circle. What's going on in the world is necessary. And we will come into a majority balanced state, but there will always be these stages. Just like there will always be a first, second, third dimension, no matter how far ahead we get. Even if in this lifetime, by chance, we end up in the 7th dimension or the 6th dimension, or even fully aligned in the 5th dimension, the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st will still be there. They are still necessary steps of evolution. They just won't be as trafficked, right? Because so much of the collective is moving together. And that's the point. We're trying to take this stream, bring it together to get consciousness moving again. It's wanting to come back into union with itself. So it's looking for the path of least resistance. And sometimes the shortcut is going off the road that's paved into the woods that looks dark and scary, sounds of animals, no defined path. That is usually the shortcut. So intently, short term, maybe a little bumpy, maybe a little scary. It's definitely going to be uncertain, but I'll tell you, it's going to be worth it. What we're going through on a collective level and a worldwide level is what each person individually is going through at some level. Where are you? And next time you see someone who you would consider evil, bad, not good, politician, doctor, pedophile. I've been raped, you guys. I have had things happen to me, and I'm not condoning it, but I'll tell you, there's a reason for it. See where they are in their evolution and have compassion for them. When that happens, more often than not with you, you know that you have shifted and you're no longer in the 3rd and 4th dimension. You have stepped in. You've stepped into the new paradigm, the new earth. And we'll be there for a little while because just like the 3rd, we had to build it up. Oh, Annette says, you are such a light. I have followed you since you put the crystals out in the borders of your property. Oh, to protect it from the hurricane. That was Florence. Yeah, I gridded my property and I still have damage from Florence. That was 2 years ago. Your faith is beautiful. However, I was not ready to hear what you taught until recently. Thank you for being you, and I'm now ready to do the work. Go do it, sister. Do the work. Yeah, Annette says she didn't know she was running, or Anne says she didn't know she was running in circles. That's what we're doing, running in circles. So again, I could keep channeling for hours. I could literally be on here all day. So I want to say thank you. I want to give a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for every single one of you that shared this broadcast, that showed up on this broadcast, that commented on this broadcast. I love you as much as I love me, and I want you to succeed. I want your desires to be met. I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to be fully aligned with Source, because when you're fully aligned with Source, you are not just serving yourself, but you're serving the whole as well. And I want you to get your desires, because that works. It benefits me too when your desires are met. And I appreciate you for having the open mind to listen to this broadcast and to allow this to resonate and settle. And if you feel called to join the Self-Mastery Academy, join us. Until next time, you guys, I'll talk to you soon.